Good girl. Yay! So starting out with this command, you're totally going to want to use a lighter weight door, an indoor one. That's either a bedroom door or a pantry door like this one. You don't really want to start with a heavier door like an outside door, one that leads to the garage, the front door, or a door that leads to the backyard. So to teach touch, you're going to want to have some treats. A clicker is optional, but is very helpful, and some painter's tape, which is tape that peels off easily without leaving any damage, or you can use Post-it notes. I here have some painter's tape. They come in typically either blue or green. It's just very helpful to have a marker or a target for your dog to see that's a different color than the door. Post-it notes do work, but they tend to fall off a lot easier and quicker than painter's tape. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is just grab a good section of painter's tape and just put it on your hand and just have your dog target it a couple times using the touch. Touch. Good. Touch. Good. Touch. Good. Touch. Good. Once I know she's getting it, I'm going to go ahead and just hold my hand up against the door. Good. Touch. Good. Touch. Good. This also gives me an idea at what level, good girl, is going to be a good level for her. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take the tape and put it on the door. We want it right about nose level is a good level typically. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to point at it and say touch. I want her to get as close as I can. I want her to get as close as she can to targeting the tape, although typically they are going to try to go for your finger. Sometimes just pointing at a distance and having some patience for them to figure it out works really well. Touch. Good. Also, touch. Touch. Yes. Touch. Yes. Touch. Yes. Good girl. So after you've done that a little bit and you can see your dog starting to target the tape when you say touch, you can go ahead and switch the command to whatever command you're going to actually want to use. So you can even just use go touch, just to send them away to go touch it, or you can do it, or you can change it to something like door or close or push, are all good options. I personally have two commands for Elsa to close a door. She has door, which means for her to get up and push the door with her paws. I use this for heavier doors. And I have close, which is what she uses her nose for on lighter doors like this one. Close. Good. Close. Good. Close. Good. Good job. Okay, so the next thing I like to do is to actually open the door like all the way. So I like to have the door open like this. That way when they touch the door for the first time to move it, it doesn't bounce back at them or make a loud noise. That way they can see that the movement that they are making is actually what we want and we can reward for that. So we're just going to do it a couple times before we go and close the door mostly. Elsa, close. Good. Close. Good girl. Close. Good. Elsa, close. Good. Okay, now I'm just going to open the door about an inch or so. I like to keep my knee or my foot down by the door. That way it doesn't swing open if she only pushes it lightly and it decides to come back. It also depends if your door is a little temperamental or not. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it a couple times. Close. Good. Close. Good. Good girl. Close. Good girl. So about the first 2 or 3 times, if they hit it lightly, it's not going to close all the way. That's okay for the first couple times. Go ahead and reward them before you go ahead and hire the criteria. What we want them to do is to actually latch the door, and that sound is going to be the marker word that you have completed the task. Almost like the door is now the clicker, if you were using it. So, what I'm gonna do, close. She didn't close it all the way, so I'm just gonna ask for it again. Close. Yes, good girl. Close. Yes, good girl. And you can see they will start to figure it out on their own that they're not getting the treat until that closes. Close. Yes, good girl. Close. Yes, good girl. Close. Yes, good job. Don't be afraid to jackpot when they do a really good one. Close. Yes, good job. Close. Good. So once you see that they're really starting to get it and they understand, you could go ahead at this point and take this tape off. And then go ahead and repeat a couple times at the same distance before we move on. Elsa. Elsa. Close. Hey, good girl. So as you can see, she still knows it. Your dog may have a little bit trouble if they were really targeting the sticky note, but generally by this time, they really aren't paying attention that much to the sticky note itself, and they are understanding the door is what gets them the reward. Close. Close. Good. So my general rule is if they stare at me for 4 to 5 seconds, then I will repeat the command. But besides that, I'm going to stay silent and let them figure it out. They tend to learn the command a lot better if you do it this way versus keep repeating the command. They're going to almost expect you to keep repeating the command every single time you ask them to do it. So I like to stay silent for 4 to 5 seconds to see if they can figure it out by themselves and then heavily reward it when they do the right thing. Close. Close. Yay, good girl. If you're having to repeat yourself to the dog to close the door over and over and over again, it's probably because you went too quickly. If they require a lot of commands for them to close the door all the way, I would suggest going back to a shorter distance, that way they can be rewarded for actually closing the door. Remember, we want the latching of the door to indicate to the dog that that is done and that's how you get your treat. Close. Yay, good girl. Close. Yes, good girl. Just a note I want to throw in here, I actually have 2 separate commands for closing a door in different ways. One, the one that we're doing right now, which is closing the door with her nose, and the other one is by using paws. You may think, oh, my dog's smaller, so they're going to have to use their paws. That's not necessarily the case. With cabinets, it really does not take anything at all for a dog to be able to close a cabinet with their nose. Also keep in mind that most of the time when a dog uses their paw to close, they're actually going to be using their nails, which may not be that big a deal for your personal home, but if you ever visit places like hotels or a friend's house and you ask your dog to do the commands, you don't want to scratch up those surfaces because they're not yours. Another thing is you don't want to slam doors all the time. If you have a medium or larger dog and you teach them to use their paws instead, maybe that's what they prefer. Some of the lighter doors, indoor doors or cabinets, you're going to be slamming really hard. So I like to keep it separate. Have a paws up or a door command, or door, which is what I use, where she puts her paws up and pushes into the door. This is for heavier doors. Everything else is done on a close command, which means she can use her nose. I always make sure that she understands the difference. And a lot of times in my training sessions, I will switch back and forth, kind of seeing if I can trick her between a close command and a door command. A lot of people that typically teach their dog to close doors will typically start by having their dog close the door with their nose. But somewhere along the line, the dog's probably going to throw their paw to close the door and they're still going to get rewarded. I highly recommend you don't do this. Once your dog knows the close command on a lightweight door like this one, it's very easily transferred to other doors throughout your house, such as cabinet doors and drawers too. So when doing drawers, it is a little different, but typically if you start at one that is nose level and do that a couple times, then move to a higher or lower one, the dog picks up on this very easily and there's not too much to worry about. If you missed that touch video card, I'll go ahead and throw it up again right here. If you're interested in teaching your dog to walk with a wheelchair, go ahead and check this video out right here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.